Greetings and welcome to my YouTube channel. Behind the smartphone's camera lurks David or Dave. This video will center on reassembling your disassembled single bay NAS device from Western Digital, in particular the WD MyCloud 3TB model or edition. So this tutorial will contain some screwing, and the perfect helper for this endeavor or task will be this set of 31-in-1 set of screwdrivers. At least this is the one that I use for such menial jobs, if you want to call it. This is a very universal set. I'll put a link to these in the description box below, where you can get yours on eBay if you don't already own one. At least that is where I ordered my set. And even though this is quite a plentiful array of bits, you'll only need, well, in essence, two screwdrivers. One will be a Phillips head screwdriver and the other one will be a torque bit or a torque screwdriver. You'll probably need two numbers, or basically just two sizes of the torque screwdrivers or torque bits. The goal is to demonstrate how do you hardware-wise put all of these parts you see in front of you, so everything here, back into their rightful position in this enclosure. The latter is of course from a 3TB model or edition. Maybe I can give you already now the necessary proof by looking at the bottom side of this enclosure to confirm this. So through the part number here, 30, this means that this was from a 3TB model, or the hard drive that was originally inside was 3 TB in capacity. However, for the purpose of this video presentation, I'll be again using my Western Digital Purple Edition 2 TB 3.5-inch SATA 3 hard drive. So this is the one right here. Maybe again a little more up close, or at least a brief overview on the label on the drive. So as I have mentioned this previously in other Western Digital related videos, this hard drive is brand new, not used, 0 hours on the clock, at least according to Crystal Disk Info. So let's look at the back. So nothing special, a hard drive as such. As mentioned, the original hard drive that was inside the WD MyCloud enclosure was 3 TB in capacity. To be specific, it was the one that is now residing in my older, still from Western Digital, NAS device, the MyBook World Edition White Light, for which I made a couple of videos on that are accessible on my channel under the playlist for that NAS device. So the hard drive that was inside was a Red edition, however it had a white label, but the model was WD30EFRX. I have already, prior to this, installed the operating system on this 2 TB hard drive, by the way. Now a little plan on how I'm going to proceed with the assembly as such. So first I'm going to attach this metallic piece here with the rubber feet that has at the end to the side of the hard drive with its two torque screws. So I'm going to secure everything that into place. And then I'm going to, of course, start on the controller by connecting it to the SATA port of the hard drive. And then I'll insert these three black hole distance spacers to position them between the holes of the controller and the holes of the hard drive or the aluminum body of thereof. And then afterwards, of course, I'll slide these three Phillips screws through that and secure everything into place. And afterwards, I'll install these three rubber feet who have the torque screws inside them as well to secure them onto the rest of the body of the hard drive. Now, before we proceed to the actual assembly or putting everything back together as such, we're first going to focus a little bit on both parts of the plastic enclosure, so the main body and the oval front piece of the mask. And then afterwards, we're going to look at the controller itself. So first we're going to start with this front oval piece of the mask. So let's first look at it this way. Of course, you have the My Cloud text, the WD logo, the power indicator or the LED indicator light or the hole for it. So very shiny plastic, very glossy, but no scratches as such. You can see the light in the room reflective. Let's look at it at this angle. You can see my window. So again, very nicely preserved. No scratches or dents. Let's look at the other angle or the other side. So also very well. You can take this front piece of the mask on the oval piece off as well. We can have a look at this right here. Yeah, you have these locking protruding pieces of plastic here, these two, and also the one here. But I haven't tried removing this mask off because I think it's sort of glued onto the oval piece of the plastic as well as such. There isn't really any need for that. And of course here you have these rails or railway lines, also here on the top. Here, this is intended so that when you slide the mask onto the body or off the main body of the enclosure, so that these sides, when you put it back on, that they stay firm on the main body, thus so that they don't go like this, so everything is snugly and fit and secured. Now we're going to look at these. These are also the locking latches, or you could say also legs. So when I have taken this apart, I also succeeded in not breaking these. But this is also to give you a good indication where they are located at the end of each plastic surface on the oval body or the mask of the ROV. So make sure you don't break these. But you know, it pretty much depends whether you want to preserve the enclosure as such. Okay. So now the main plastic body of the enclosure is up for inspection, if you want to call it. So again, we'll start at the bottom. You have all the necessary information here. And of course you have this textured plastic with the holes in the enclosure which serve as passive cooling. And of course you have these four, they're almost transparent but whitish rubber feet, which have two functions. One is that they provide the necessary friction or traction when you place the NAS device when it is fully assembled onto a flat surface, whether it is a table or a desk or elsewhere, so the NAS device doesn't move back and forth, up and down in other directions, and therefore coming off the table and falling onto your ground and becoming faulty, which can also happen if you have a very curious cat, for instance. So this textured plastic also continues here on the back, a little halfway and a little bit on the side, but most importantly also on the top, providing nice passive cooling or venting system as such. And then again here on the back, of course, you have another label, the Kensington lock hole, the opening for the DC input jack, LAN Ethernet, and USB 3.0 hole, and the opening for the reset, if you want to reset your NAS device. Okay, now we're just going to look at the front. Of course, this is the part number for this main massive plastic oval body of the enclosure if you need a spare part, if yours has become broken or somehow, but this one is in nice condition, so nothing is chipped away, no discolorations. Okay, so now we'll have a look inside. First we're going to look at this angle. So here you have some discolorations, a little white color popping up instead of the grayish one. Okay, so now here at the, this is the top, yeah. So at the top, on each side of the enclosure, the main body of the ROF, you have 2 here and 2 here. So basically 4 at the top, but also 4 at the bottom. These protruding pieces of plastic, and these serve as a sort of a ruler or a guideline for the rails on the oval piece of the plastic. So when the mask slides off or back on the main body of the enclosure, so that it doesn't go like this, so it is firmly placed or guided onto the main body of the enclosure, so everything is snugly and fit when you look at it from this angle. So make sure you don't break these as well when you're taking apart your WD My Cloud. So these ones are also nicely preserved in one piece. Now regarding this, the black locking plastic pieces, they basically serve as an additional safeguard when you insert the assembled, this side, the assembled hard drive with its 4 rubber feet mounted on the respective edges of the aluminum enclosure. They help it to be secure in the main body of the plastic enclosure as such. So these 2 or this pair, they help in this operation. Even though I don't know why aren't they also mounted on this side, but that would probably make the entire extraction procedure of the hard drive from the main body of the enclosure very painful. But nevertheless, these 2 are really hard to get out of the enclosure if you manage to achieve this, because I tried it, but then in the end I just simply gave up. But you know, for the purpose of this video presentation or the overall assembly procedure, it is just enough that you lift one of the legs on this side upwards, so it is just a little bit lifted, so you can fit those one pair of these rubber feet inside. Because you know, even if you push one of those down and you try to remove the latching leg inside here in this hole, that's pretty much impossible. So I wouldn't even try to do that unless if you want to break everything, and that isn't good, because that would probably make the hard drive inside less stable. So after reviewing both parts or plastic enclosures of the My Cloud, we're going to move on to reviewing or taking a look much more up close, the most interesting part of the ROF. Now this is the intermediate circuit or the PCB controller. So let's have a look at this much more in detail. So this is how it looks like from the back. So if your NAS device, in this case WD My Clouds, regardless of capacity, goes faulty for some reason, whether it is a partial error or it completely dies out, and if you want to get a replacement one, you would want to pay attention to these numbers here that are embedded on the back of the circuitry board, and this is the part number. You would want to get as close as possible, if not even the same data that are printed on the back. Of course, the most problems that you will have is getting the revision number or the revision data right. So this would be the most painstaking problem. This part of the code you'll probably find the same one, but here you'll have some difficulties finding a perfect match. Alright, let's look at the two stickers or the labels. I think that you can make out the numbers on these two as well, especially this one. This is very small print. Come on, camera, focus. Okay. So you can see that. Alright, but overall, on the back, you have these surface mount devices or SMDs, resistors, and here, of course, you have a couple of larger capacitors and then a bunch of smaller ones as well. And here, of course, you have the soldering joints for these things on the back. They seem to be nicely soldered, nice joints. Alright, let's flip it over. Alright, so let's look first at these. So of course this is the reset button, the USB 3.0 used for expansion, the LAN or the RJ45 connector, and the DC input power jack. Oh, and of course here you have the SATA connector. This is where you would attach your hard drive naturally. And here you have the LED port or the transparent piece of plastic. And behind here, of course, you have the probably an RGB LED. So this can give you various colors of the ROV: red, blue, yellow. You would always want to get a blue LED. Nothing else. So I have actually managed to get this plastic piece off here. So like I said, here you have a very tiny SMD LED, which then, according to the program on the board, changes color accordingly. Now let's look at some of the other ICs that are on this board, and this would be the cache or the RAM of the NAS drive. So this is, I think, a 1 gigabit DDR3 SDRAM. So 1 gigabit, that is approximately, well, actually 256 megabytes. And this is, of course, the main computer or microprocessor. Let's have a look at this too. So it's a MindSpeed Comcerto. This one basically has 2 Cortex A9 ARM cores running at around 650 megahertz according to the datasheet. And I think this is the IC for connectivity, so for the LAN port or the Ethernet port. I don't know what are these other ICs, but I'll probably put the text in the description box so you can look them up yourself if you wish. So that's it. Oh yeah, here I think this is a fuse. Oh, here, right next to the DC input jack port. I think this is the fuse because I remember the 0 on it. That means that this is the fuse, but I'm not certain. Maybe somebody will correct me in the comment section. So this is much more up close on the front side of the controller. I don't know what are these empty slots here for, or even this one here. This very much reminds me of another USB port. Alright, so that's it. Okay, let's move on. Before we move on, I popped the lid of this component as well. And this is the upper side of the enclosure. And these smaller things, they look like very small toroidal transformers or something. Interesting. And of course here you have another option for possibly another switch, because here you have this switch and the label SW2. So what is SW1? Alright, now let's really move on. We're going to move on with the actual assembly as such. So first I'm going to mount this metallic piece on the side here and secure it with the 2 torque screws. All done. Let's have a closer look. So this is how it's supposed to look like when it's mounted on the aluminum body of the hard drive. You don't need to really tighten the torque screws, just enough so it doesn't move around. Alright, so now I said I'm going to do the controller second, but I'm going to do these 3 rubber feet instead, so I do all the similar things first. So now we have gotten even this out of the way. Of course, do make note that this torque screw that is inside this rubber foot or feet, this one is much smaller than the other 2, which are located over here. So for the sake of symmetry, the smaller torque has to be on this side, while the other 2 have to be here. You can basically just attach these rubber feet just with your fingers, twisting it. You don't even need to use the torque screwdriver, but I like to keep everything secure. So that's this part. So now we move on to the actual controller. Now there are actually 2 ways on how you can, in the end, secure the controller onto the aluminum body of the hard drive. The first approach is that you just simply slide the controller onto the hard drive, and then you use a tweezer to put these 3 black distance spacers underneath or between the controller and the body of the hard drive. So the first one goes here, and that is the most easiest operation that you can execute. Now the second one goes here. This is also easy, but the third one is really the hardest, because on this side you have some of the components on the controller blocking your view, and also here on this side. So you can torture yourself in this manner, or you can just simply, before you attach the controller, position these spacers in their appropriate slots or holes on the hard drive. So one goes here, the second here, and the third one here. So I'll probably go this way. So the spacers are nicely on the hard drive. Maybe I'll zoom in. There you go. So one is over here, the second over here, and the third one over here. So now you have to slide the controller onto the SATA port of the hard drive, and in the process not moving or tipping over these spacers in the process. Now this requires a little more steady hand. And after you're done, it would be a good idea to use something sharp. It's like a tweezer to go through those holes to see if you got the spacers right underneath. So then you can put in these 3 Phillips screw through these holes and finally secure the controller into place. So now let's get busy with the screwing. And we're all done for this part of the assembly. Let's just have a look. So the spacer is nicely underneath, separating the controller board and the body of the hard drive. And also here on this side, I think you'll be able to see it. Also here, nicely underneath. Yeah, now it's better. Maybe I can, well, yeah, poor lighting, but it's somewhere there, so that is also okay. So this is how it looks like overall. and almost close to the end assembled. So there is enough room underneath as it should be, or as it was intended to be. Okay. Now we're going to finally put the assembled hard drive with the controller inside the main body of this enclosure. So now I have positioned the enclosure in such a manner so that you'll have a best or optimal overview on the entire action of the insertion. So let's go. You want to hit that hole. So you want to position the hard drive in such a manner that the two rubber feet align with the holes in the enclosure, with the pair of black locking plastic pieces, of course, being slightly loosened up. So you want to align those two rubber feet in those holes, so that can be a little tricky. However, after you're done, the hard drive just falls down into this slot as well. I mean, the rubber feet that are mounted on the side of the hard drive, they just fall right down into these two slots. Then you just press down these two black plastic locking pieces and everything is secure. So let's do that. So that's it. So I'll give you another final overview on how the drive with its controller mounted onto it fits nicely into the main body of the enclosure. So as you can see, everything is nice, snugly and fit. Nothing has been forced in, and because of that there won't be any breaking of the plastic, even though of course this overall main body is very sturdy. So let's have a look at it this way. Yeah, so the rubber feet, they fall nicely into the plastic slots. Nothing is protruding or lifted up. So now let's just look at it from this view. A little bit on the top, on the side, the bottom. Yeah, so everything is as it should be. Yeah, so in regards to these two black blocking plastic pieces, I won't bother trying to get them out in order to fit the reassembled hard drive with the controller inside this main body of the enclosure. Such, you just push one of these locking latching legs upwards, I mean downwards, well, depending on your orientation, just enough so that the hole where here the rubber feet would go inside is much wider, and also here, because perhaps you could get this one out of here because there is enough space here, but definitely not in this compartment right here. That is just too tight and too narrow, and you would probably break the locking leg in the process, and that would make the entire drive sit less tight in the enclosure as such. Okay, so that's it. Now before I finally slide on the front plastic piece or the mask of the enclosure onto the main body of the ROF, I'm just going to bring the final thing to your attention. You see these dents in these two protruding pieces of this plastic. So you have two here, and you also have two on this side. So one again here and also here. So what are these for? Well, basically I should have mentioned these when I was reviewing the main body of the enclosure such, but I forgot, so I'm going to mention them now, their functionality. These four, and of course two on the other side, plastic legs serve as a sort of a locking mechanism that go in between this side of the enclosure and this one into these, you could say, locking latches or locking legs. So the plastic goes underneath, and also here you have a small, very small protruding piece of the plastic as well, and also on this side and on the top, and that locks the front mask of the enclosure onto the main body of the ROF, so it doesn't by accident when you grab the NAS drive like so it doesn't slide off and the main body falls on your floor, for instance. So that's why it is, very important that you don't break these latches when you're taking apart your WD MyCloud. Even though I think probably even if they were broken, I think this is probably very much snugly fit on the main body, but it's always good to be careful. So that's it. Now the final thing that I want to bring to your attention is also that you align the front mask with the body of the enclosure in such a manner that these two, and also you have two on the other side, protruding pieces of plastic, that they fall right into this rail here, between this piece of the plastic here and the oval main mask. And also you have one here on this side and also on the bottom. That will make the sealing or the marriage, you could say, of the front mask and the main body go very smoothly. So now we'll just align everything up and we'll seal the deal. So now we'll just align the mask onto the body. And there you go, it just slides back on. And just push it a little bit, or so that's it. You have your MyCloud, they're from Western Digital, fully assembled as it should be. So there's no space between the main body and the mask, as it should be. Everything is locked into place. Also here, let's look how it looks here. Nice. No free space, nothing is curved or bended. Yeah, well, so that's it. Fully assembled. Oh, let's look at the back. Yeah, so everything is nicely aligned. Okay, so this is it. So in conclusion, final note and the end note as such, before I say goodbye in the last day or the last year of 2017, so the next video I'll be recording will be already in the new 2018 year. I wish you a wealthy and a healthy New Year's Eve, and may the next year bring you a lot of luck and manageable challenges, whether it is in the business sphere, personal life, or elsewhere. So I hope you enjoyed this video presentation. My videos are always long, but that's why also in the description box I always add sort of a guide or video table of headings or some directions if you want to skip a certain part of the video presentation. I hope you're using it if you're watching my videos. I'll try to make them short as possible, but there's no guarantee in that. I hope that you learned something new in this video of reassembling your Western Digital MyCloud NAS device, even though of course I haven't showed you the, you could say, software prerequisite in terms of installing the operating system on the hard drive. Maybe I'll do a separate video on that, but you know, there are plenty of YouTube videos on that topic as well. This video as such was just focused on the hardware version of Reassembly. If you have any questions, suggestions, propositions, ideas, even criticism, naturally, leave all that in the comment section below. And still, you know, hit the like button, subscribe, share, and we'll see you in 2018. So this is David or Dave, and be safe. Goodbye.